guys, and welcome to the 30,000 mile review of the Triumph Scrambler 1200 XE, or 1 year. I've owned it for 1 year, give or take, a week or so. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of go through everything. I kind of owe it to you guys. You've got a lot of questions. I've got a lot of feedback, a lot of positive feedback, and I appreciate everybody's great comments and enthusiasm that I have in sharing that with me. So, and this thing for about a year now. I didn't get rid of it. I just stopped using the T120 as often as I was. Hey, Zol. And yeah, the bike's been great. It's typical Triumph, so, a little bit about me, and, if you're new to the channel, you can just look through my history and see that I've owned many, many bikes. I've got a lot of footage and a lot of things, a lot of history with motorcycles, and I ride a lot. And with that, I will put a lot of miles on my T120. I started out with a Sportster XR 1200, and it's ironic because this bike reminds me a lot of the XR 1200. Because of the wheelbase, the length, the rake, everything. It's just, but it's done right. So just gonna go through basically a little history of myself. So like I said, I average about 30 to 35,000 miles a season. That's been pretty typical. I ride machines that are reliable so that I can keep riding. As you can tell, I don't make a lot of footage these days. I'm making this for you guys, but just because I don't have time. I've got a 3-year-old daughter, which I adore, and it's great. But that takes up a lot of time. Plus, I, live in Vermont, so, a day like today, I'm going to be love to be able to get 200-300 miles on. Instead, I got to go split wood all day. So, it's there's always work to be done. And so finding time to ride and do videos is difficult. And also to wrench on bikes and ride is difficult. So I really need to rely on a machine that can really just I could just put a bunch of miles on. Yeah, so I settled on the Scrambler 1200 Bonneville. My first bike was a Triumph Bonneville T120 that I put 120, it's got 121,000, 122,000 miles. I can't remember, but it's got a lot. And the reason I like that bike so much is because it was very reminiscent of my first motorcycle, which was a 1981 Suzuki GS 750. And I put as many miles as I could on that but it was always breaking down. And then I went to a Bandit 1200, put 100,000 miles or 88,000 miles on that. And then I got a FZ1 and I put about 80,000 miles on that. And then I got a Concourse 14 and I put 50,000 on that. And unfortunately I got into an accident with that. I actually wasn't riding it. My good friend Jeff was riding it, and it was a sad situation for him. For me with him, I was more upset about him than I was about the bike at all. But I did come to the realization, it was as I was getting bigger in displacement, I got a Bandit Suzuki B King. I think I put 25,000 miles on that in a season. And it just was the bigger in displacement I was getting, I wasn't really getting a better bike. And that's where my mind was 1,000 cc's or more and more power is fun. Well, I live in rural Vermont and it's 50 mile per hour zone most places, lots of twisty turny roads, lots of meandering, lots of dirt roads that bring you to really beautiful locations. So I was realizing that less was more. You refer to my videos, I went and got a Street 750 Harley Davidson. And I tried the Harley Davidson thing for a little bit there. It was a really good bike. Chassis was good, engine was good, but it ergonomically was not good. It was just, it actually caused arthritic conditions in my hip. So I actually had to stop, and I sold it and traded in for the XR 1200, which I put maybe 15,000 miles on. That was really tough because that thing kept breaking down. Harness caught on fire. Bunch of problems, ran out of gas all the time, would barely get 100 miles a tank. It was just, I mean, I appreciate the idea behind it, and I think like the bones of it was pretty good, especially since Buell was able to get into that engine and actually, you know, make it usable for someone that's like myself that just sports tours. But I just couldn't ride it, and I went down to the Florida Daytona Bike Week, and I met up with one of my good friends, Scott Ald, and he had a Bonneville T120, and I rode it, and he couldn't pry me off of it. By the time I was coming back from Florida, I had already called Pembroke, New Hampshire, the Triumph dealer, and I get, okay, guys, I really need a Bonneville T120. I'm going to bring in this XR 1200. I've really tried, and it's just a piece of junk. I didn't like it, so I traded it. I traded it in, and I got on my Bonneville T120, and the rest is history, really. If you want to go check out all my videos, I've got a plethora of videos. You could tell as I progressed it on that bike, I started to mature as a rider on that bike, really understanding the fact that horsepower wasn't necessarily the end all be all. It's really just what can that bike do? Can it do everything as well as it can? Like myself, a jack of all trades, master of none. So, and that T120 really hit the nail on the head. I did have to do a lot of suspension work, a lot of tire work. Found out that alloys was the best way to go with that bike. And now it's like really set up to just be like a weekend carving machine. Engine runs great still. It's old, so it's got problems, and it was getting to that point. So that fast forward to this. Last year, I was not really looking for a rig. I was trying to like limp the Bonneville along, and I was going to try to get it to 200,000 miles. And, but I was just kept having issues. Like the ABS sensors on that bike for me have been problematic. And so, I got to replace one right now, actually. And, I just couldn't justify it because I just did a fuel pump on it. It pooped on me, pooped the bed. And this is what happens when you live with a 3-year-old, you start saying things like that. I had to replace the fuel pump. I was in there to did the fuel filter. The pump just died. I was just intermittent, losing power, couldn't figure it out. Replaced the pump, found out the pump was bad, and everything's fine. Now the bike runs great. But it's just things like that. When you get a bike that's that high mileage, it's things start to go awry. And the T120 is a fantastic machine, but it didn't come with all the factory high-end spec stuff, like the Scrambler 1200. Because what I was looking for was I had some anxiety because I really didn't want to get rid of the Bonneville because I love the Bonneville platform. It's the best platform for my riding style. And the motor is the absolute treasure gem of this style of riding in this environment in Vermont, where you don't need to go 150 miles an hour, you don't need to go 130 miles an hour, but you do need is a lot of mid-range grunt to exit turns and get over the hills. It's a lot of twisty turny riding around here, and a lot of hills, nothing straight or flat around here. And the 1200 lump was just perfect. And I wanted to get upgraded to the HP because I did so much work on my HT, the high torque engine, that I was like, oh, I'll get the high power engine, the 1200, from the Thruxton. So I was secretly looking at getting a speed twin at the time. Cruise control had just come out. I didn't know that when I bought this. But I was doing my research and realized that all the Scramblers came with cruise control. So yes, the reason I was pointed to a Scrambler 1200 XE is not because of its features and its awesome suspension and its ability to go off-road or whatever. It was because it came with cruise control and the HP 1200 engine. That was it. And so I was browsing around, just looking around, looking at used. I wasn't looking to get new. I was just curious, Lo and behold, Ducati Triumph, now Indian Cyclewise dealer in New Haven, Vermont, which is, maybe it's a short ride for Vermont standards, probably 35 minutes from here. And they had this 1200 XE Chrome. left over. No one wanted it. It was marked down substantially. And so I went and checked it out. I went and rode it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see what it is and see if I like it. I have a video on it. And, you know, it's just like, okay, like, I liked it. The motor was really nice. You know, it was nice to ride a brand new Bonneville again, or Scrambler. And it felt right to me. It had the same kind of ergonomic position as the Bonneville. It was a little higher up. I wasn't quite sold on that. I wasn't quite ready to be the ADV dad. But I was like, I don't know. I mean, for the, you know, let's run some numbers, see what happens. They offered me a stellar deal on this, like an offer I couldn't refuse. I paid if you were like factoring inflation, because we went through a crazy inflation period, no politics tied in, but we did. I paid less for this than I did for my T120, which I bought with no markdowns. This was marked down pretty considerably. So out the door, it was cheaper to get on this, brand new, with the 2-year unlimited mile warranty, which, yeah, I make sure Triumph gives me full value of that. So yeah, so we made the deal. I rode it. I had some issues, so let's not sugarcoat it. I mean, the things has been into the shop for 4 things so far. Side stand kicked. I went to throw it out and put down the bike, and I felt a creak. And then I got up and I put the side stand up, and it went flying across the parking lot. I couldn't run the bike because there's a sensor in the side stand. So luckily I was I don't know where I was. I think I was at a Harbor Freight, or no, I was at a Tractor Supply for some reason. I was in there to get something. And I basically went in, bought some JB Weld, grabbed some saran wrap off the pallet of, I think it was like water softener pellets, and I just tied it all together and got her home, and drove her right to the dealer and leaned her against the wall. And they're like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't have a side stand. So I showed them the pieces. They got me a new side stand. They pulled it off another XE. So that was under warranty. That was no big deal. It got me back on the road. And then I was riding, I don't know, I was probably like 5,000 miles in to the first, you know, I do 5,000 mile oil changes. I don't do the 10,000 mile oil changes. I had issues with my T120. So basically Triumph's like, go to 5,000 miles if you ride a lot. So I do. On 5,000 miles, I noticed that I had no brake pressure, and my brakes would like come and go. And I noticed all this fluid was starting to flow out of the master. So brought it in again, and sure enough, the brake master was trash. And so they threw on an old Ducati one that they had from a track bike, because they do a lot of track days, so I could keep riding. They put this one in. I got a new one. They put that on, and after that, I started also noticing like this weird vibration coming from the front. Well, when they replaced this, it was actually adding the proper pressure to the front. It warped the rotors. The rotors were warped, so we had to replace those. That was in for the shop for a little bit for that. So yeah, and then the rear spokes are loose, and I got to bring I have it off, and I'm bringing it into the dealer, and they're going to fix that. So I'm running a T120 rear spoke. For me, it's just insurance. It's the rear rim that I had on my T120. I'm on alloys on my T120, so I have these spare rims. I like the spoke look. It's already sealed. I've got this, I have the tubeless conversion on this, so I just said, we're gonna run that, and no problems. Yeah, so as for that, that's pretty much the bike. That's kind of the history of the bike the last year. As you can tell, I've done a lot of modifications. You know, these are Bonneville T120 crash bars, Thruxton 2 to 1. There's a 1 union pipe here to 2 exhaust. And to do that, I had to put this coolant reservoir on. So I got this pipe on, did the airbox mod, Canon air filter. I think it's like, I can't remember the name of the brand, but it's a Canon like element. And a DNK tune seems like the bike does the best tune-wise around like 87, 89 octane. It's supposed to put premium in, you know, that's what DNK says, but I've run 87 on my T120 that's got the tune, no problems. And I run 89 on this, seems to be the best. I have had run 87 on a couple times and put it in road mode and not had any issues, but I have had some pinging and knocking on this bike, and even with premium fuel, it will happen sometimes. Like, not very often, but you got to make sure that you're loading it right. This motor, unlike the 1200 HT, does not really like to be lugged along like at 1800 RPM. So keep it north of 2000, 2100, you're going to be fine all day long. That's the only thing I could think of. But anyways, that's what I did with that for power mods. Made a big difference. When I sent the map, I was like, can you do something similar to what you do for a Thruxton? They're like, well, we have, what exhaust you're running? I'm like, I'm running a Thruxton exhaust. And Danielle knows me at DNK because I've given her a couple of challenges with my T120. So she's like, of course you are. So here you go, try this one out, and the map works great. Lots of power, high, and it really pulls past red line. It's a nice power upgrade. I'm on my second chain and sprockets. Right now I'm running a 42 rear, 16 front. I really like that combo. I do have an 18 tooth front that I use when I do a lot of touring. So if I'm like, in a couple of weeks, I'm gonna be going down to Virginia and North Carolina. So a lot of it's not necessarily slab, but I might have to use the interstate. I like to have the 18 tooth. I can run 72 miles an hour and get 60 miles a gallon. This setup, I get like 52 to 55 miles per gallon, depends on how much I'm horsing around with it. But that's pretty consistent. It's right around that 55 mile per gallon mark with this sprocket setup. And I've run this sprocket setup on my Bonneville as well, 1642. Just really like it. And I have spare sprockets and stuff. So, and they interchange with the T120, by the way. You can put the same sprocket if you have something from a T120 on the Bonneville and on the Scrambler, and the rear sprockets all line up. The chain and crush drive are all the same. You can interchange the rims. These bikes are very much the same. It's a Bonneville. That's why I call it a Bonneville. A lot of people are like, well, it's a Scrambler. It's a Bonneville. It's a Bonneville. That's why I like it so much. So anyway, so you can tell I got this like nice little pouch here. This is what I keep my backup battery. I have a battery charging off the USB all the time. So if I ever need to like charge a camera or charge my phone or charge my Cardo, I can just charge it. I've got these LED lights on the front, and then I got these big honking high beam lights on the front of the bike. I've got this is the XR 1200 windshield, which has followed me from the T120 into here. So this thing's probably got almost 180,000 miles on it. And it works really good. I've got this like wind deflector. Everything's great. I've got two raise back and pull back handlebars risers. So the bars are up a little bit, but they're also back. So they're far back. So I can be really comfortable on the bike. I've done 950 mile day or 1,000 mile day or whatever. It was really close. It was like 960 or 970 something. And I'm fine. I'm comfortable. The T120 seat, the seat is from the T120. I had to change the pan out with the Scrambler pan, but it works great. Then I've got the KG rack. This is from a 1982 or 3 Suzuki GS 750. And I've modified that to be put on the T120, and then further modified it to fit the Scrambler. And I've got it mounted on the base plate here. As you can see, I've got it mounted down where the passenger pegs are. Those are custom. And basically that adds a lot of rigidity. And so instead of the rack only pivoting on the loop, it's really pivoting down on the lower parts of the frame. It's also mounted to the exhaust mounts, the stock exhaust mounts. So like this thing, solid. Like I can lift the whole bike up by this rack and it's not going anywhere. I also reinforced the bottom of the loop of the frame I was in there just to make sure, because I've seen horror stories, and I cannot have the bike break down. So I reinforced with the aluminum plate, and really rigided up that rear end, so that thing can be loaded. It's probably as strong as the rest of the frame at this point. I know why they did it. They did it to reduce weight, and I've probably added a lot of weight back onto it with all this extra bars, frames, and increasing the rigidity of the frame. It's fine. For me, it's not about the weight. It's really about the long-term sustainability, because this bike, I need it to run. It cannot break down, and it can't leave me on the road, and I really can't lose my luggage. So, and I could load probably, I would say like 150 pounds worth of luggage, and there's no problem. I went for like a 4,000 mile ride back in June, and I was fully loaded on most of the trip and no problems. You have to be strategic with your loading, because the bike's so high that there's a lot more effect when it's higher up. That's the only thing you gotta worry about. This is my first ADV bike, so I learned that. Yeah, so, and then, I'm running the Givi top case. I've got Givi side case mounts. I rock this. I have 2 tanks. I rock my T120 tank in the winter time when it gets saltier towards the end of the year or in the beginning of the year, and then I'll put the chrome one back on. This thing's holding up pretty well. Yeah. What else did I do to it for modifications? Nothing else. Suspension stock. I did try lowering it a little bit, but I'm back up to the height. I actually really like the ride height of this. Oh, I put these highway peg bars on, these foot pegs. Some people think they're goofy. They're like, why would you do that? Why would you put those on? And it's like, well, if you're in the saddle for 15 and a half, 16 hours, I tell you, these are really nice to get up and stretch your legs. I mean, like I said, I'm a rider. I bought this bike to ride. And that's why I got rid of the stock exhaust too, because it was just not comfortable. This is way more comfortable. No heat issues. It's a fantastic rig. Yeah, so that's basically it. Oh, I got this front fender here. This is off a CB450 that I customized to fit this bike, just for rain guard protection. It's actually just really for rain. That's why I did it. It's a functional piece. It's not necessarily a form thing, although it looks really nice. I like the chrome. But it just keeps the rain off you, because I ride every day, so I'm going to hit rain sometimes, and sometimes I don't. So yeah, that's basically it. And so that's all I've done for modifications. So 30,000 miles. No big deal. Bike's really settled in. By 20,000 miles, I've had no issues. 5,000 mile oil changes, my best recommendation for that. I use an OBD2 reader. I use OBD Links or whatever, and Tune ECU. I've had Tune ECU for my T120, become very acquainted and acclimated with it. So switching to this is it's easy. And the cool thing about this bike is it's like, everything is so similar, because it's just the Bonneville. So it's like, oh, where's the spark plug? Where's the coil packs, or where's this, where's that, or how do you do the valves? It's all the same. So, I did my 20,000 mile review, my 20,000 mile service. It's on the video. So those were fine. The valves were in spec. Right, Zol? Right? Yes, everything was good. And yeah, I mean, it's a great motorcycle. So future wise, it's August. I'll go through and I can show you how I use my gauge to kind of make sure I stay on track. I do trip 1 is my fuel tank, is my tank, and then trip 2 is basically my mileage for the month. So like in today, it's the 9th. You see it says 900 something miles. That means, okay, so I've got to get my 100 miles on today to be to 1,000 or the 10th. So that kind of keeps me on track if I'm ahead or behind the game. So like today, I'll probably go in for maybe 80-mile ride to get back up to, so I'm set at 10 when I go into the 10th. So that's kind of how I keep track of everything. like I said, it's 100 miles a day. So that's about 2.5 hours. I'm averaging about 42 to 45 miles per hour on average. It's Vermont. I can't go much faster than that, and it's fine. It's beautiful. It's great. You know, I take my time and enjoy the weather. Even if it's raining, I'll enjoy it. So yeah, that's basically, that's my review. So I think that's gonna happen is I'm gonna try to get this thing up to 40,000 miles by the end of the winter. I'm gonna roll it in hopefully at 40,000. And at that rate, I can confidently say that I should be able to get to 70-ish thousand by next season. And then I'll be at the 100,000 mile mark in like 2 years. That's probably what I'm going to be at. The one thing I like this bike, and because I love it, because it's got the great suspension, the suspension's fantastic, the brakes are fantastic, I love the TFT display, I love everything about this bike. It's just like so much more comfortable for me. The position is more comfortable than the Bonneville. I like it a lot more than the Bonneville. Bonneville was my favorite bike. This is not my favorite bike. Maybe the best bike I've owned because it's really not been problematic like the Bonneville has, and it just seems to be getting better with age. I really want to try to get this one to the 200,000 mile mark. It'd be like, a few years at least, like 4 or 5 years I'm thinking, but do a cross country trip with it, really just put the miles to it. I really haven't had a bike that has had 200,000 miles. I've had a few bikes that get close to 100,000, and I've had the Bonneville that obviously is well over 100,000. And I think this bike is definitely going to be a candidate. It just runs fantastic. The engine is just solid. No weird noises or issues. I just think it's going to last for a very, very, very long time. And I'm going to see how long it lasts for. And that's the thing, too, is like, as a millennial and a younger guy that rides a lot, I'm actually, I get the lore of the Harleys, and I get the lore of like all these other bike brands that people are bought into. And I come from a Japanese, most of the miles still I've put on bikes are Japanese. If you do the total miles, I'm probably close to like 300,000-400,000 miles, almost 500,000 miles I've ridden, which is pretty good for being, 40 years old. And that said, I think, I would love to be able to own like a Harley or an Indian. I've looked at them, and I was like, for the amount of miles and the cruising, I think they're great. They're just prohibitively expensive. When you're looking at a cruiser that's like $35,000, I can't justify it when I paid let's just say less than $15,000 out the door with this. Much less than 15. Like, I was very well in a good position. Like, I could buy 2 of these and still not be able to afford a Challenger, for example, which I was looking at. And I think that's the cool thing about the Triumphs, and that's why I like Triumph. I love Triumph. I'm a TOMCC member. I don't necessarily am so administratively involved with the TOMCC. I try to be, but I'm unfortunately not there. But these things just are awesome. I think the best part about being a Triumph owner is we know that they're the best bikes on the road. They may not be the best bikes reliability-wise, we all have had issues with our Triumphs, but we just love them. They're designed well. The fit and finish is really nice. And they're designed as rider machines, and especially because they're English-based bikes, English-designed bikes. I live in New England. The countryside, the type of riding that these bikes are set up for is very much the style of riding that I'm accustomed to riding. I was only feeling comfortable on sport touring machines from Japan and stuff. So that's why I'm on Triumphs. I've looked at Harleys. There's nothing there that appeals to me. I've tried Harleys. I've owned 4. I just don't like them. I just don't get them. You know, I just don't understand the appeal, and I just don't understand the want or the need, especially since I've ran a few Indians. They're just better. You know, the motors are better and they handle better. I don't understand the appeal of the Harley Davidson. I feel bad for, because I understand the principle of the Harley. It started out as a blue collar American motorcycle for the blue collar American, but now it's like, it's a white collar gig if you want to get into one. And not for me, man. And you know, these bikes are easy to work on. It's a Bonneville. You know, it's liquid cooled, sure, but like, you know, these air fins actually do help with displacing heat off the cylinder head. Like they're easy to, everything you could need to work on the bike, you can see and access. That's why I love naked bikes. That's why I love standard motorcycles. I mean, this is what it is, a standard motorcycle. I would call it the UEM, right? As I say, Universal English Motorcycle. It's a UEM. I mean, that's where I come from. I come from the standard motorcycle. Like, you could just do whatever you want with them. That's the beautiful thing about them. And it's and I love the Scrambler XC. Like, I think it's a premium model. It really is. You know, compared to the T120, which is still premium for a Bonneville, it's not premium for the Bonneville line. I think the Scrambler is probably the best bet if you want to put some big miles on a Bonneville platform. This is definitely the platform to use. The suspension's worlds ahead. You've got aluminum swing arm. You've got, you know, inverted forks, Brembo brakes, technology up the yin yang, and if it doesn't work, and sometimes it doesn't, sometimes the bank angle sensor just doesn't work because it's a Triumph. You ride it around and still it's fine. It just keeps going. And that's the cool thing about this platform for me, is that no matter what I had go wrong with it, like the shear, I had the shifter shear on my T120, I took it apart, welded it back together, threw it back in the bike, and it's still in the bike. I still got it home. You know, like, you can work on these things, you know. That's why I really like it. So anyways, that's all I've got. If you like what you see, you know, like and subscribe, put some comments below. Tell me why you think the Scrambler is a great bike, why you like riding Triumphs, or what is interesting you about Triumph. I really want to know. I try my best to respond to all the comments, guys. I apologize. I'm not always on YouTube all the time. But yeah, that's all I've got. I really appreciate all that you guys do. I appreciate the comments, appreciate the support. I hope this was an informative video for you. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the road. Thanks so much. Best.